Michael, I did not check if the countdown started from 5 or from 6. I'm not sure now. I'm confused.
But was there a countdown? The only thing that happened was my screen went gray.
Oh, really? Sorry,
Yeah.
Michael, about that. But yeah, we saw the countdown.
Okay,
How are
I
you,
didn't
by
see
the
any
way?
countdown. I'm doing well. How are you doing, Martin?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you very much.
So are you planning on shoveling snow this winter?
No, this winter I stay in Thailand and I enjoy the hot weather.
I cannot wait to see stories. When I was a kid, right, I lived in Massachusetts and Connecticut, and we always laughed at the people in Buffalo, New York, where it seemed to snow like 3, 4, 5, 6 feet every day in the wintertime. I'm not interested at all. How about you?
No, same as me. You know, we had that in France as well when I was there, but I think I left for Thailand for a reason, and that's included. That's included.
So we have Denys Lichtenstein with us. I hope I got his name right. Denys is a co-founder and the CEO of a bunch of things, but let's talk about ProfitDog. Denys, how are you doing today, by the way?
I'm good. Thank you very much for having me today.
It is our pleasure. Do you have a shovel for the snow?
I'm sure it's somewhere hidden in the cellar. I'm based in Munich, Germany, so it does snow pretty heavily in the winter.
Okay. Well, if you ever want to come to Thailand to visit during the winter, please let us know. The world goes remote. Anyway, how are you doing, by the way? All joking aside.
So far, it's been a good day. It's excited to be here.
We are super happy to hear you here. So, like you do this thing called ProfitDog, but you've been involved like in the startup world or building your own companies for a while, yeah?
Yeah, since 2014, so almost 9 years now.
Yeah, I mean, almost a decade. Did you ever have a real job, or did you just start building stuff on your own?
Yeah, actually, I started the SassyClassy together with my siblings 2014. Was involved there for 1.5 years. Then went to the US for my master's. Was offered a scholarship there. Made a transfer. Then had some courses on Stanford, which I financed through student loans, so that I was afraid to jump back into the startup world directly, and first went into the corporate world. So had a 2-year stay with Microsoft, and after a 3-year stay with Facebook before joining back into the entrepreneurial world.
Oh, really? So were you at Facebook in the United States?
In Dublin, in Germany, so Ireland and Germany.
What was it like working at Facebook? I honestly don't know anybody that's worked there. I'm super curious, like what it's like there.
For me, it was one of the best experiences I've ever had. I was able to work with really, really brilliant minds. I've been privileged with a great team, great manager, who supported me a lot. So for me, the experience was unreal, and I wouldn't have wanted to miss it.
But talk to me now about Facebook a little bit, if you don't mind. I mean, one of the things that I really want to cover is I watch what's happening today at Facebook, and I just feel like, you can never tell, right? If you're not inside the company, what's actually going on. I used to work at Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley, and if I heard people talk about what was happening there, they were always wrong, right? So I don't believe the news, but I'm just curious because there's all this conversation about the metaverse and stuff like that, right? Which we can talk about, particularly in the context of some of the stuff that you're doing, right? I think it's going to matter. But how do you think, and we can talk about ads too, right? Like how is the ad business going to be affected by all of the stuff that's happening with Facebook, with Google, with all the changes that Apple has made as well? Can you just give us some visibility into that?
Yeah. So first of all, when looking at the changes that Apple, Google have inflicted on the advertising world, so to say, by changing how tracking used to work and how it's working today,
right.
I think that what is important today is not to just rely on the single source of truth being the Facebook Ads Manager. Is there will be data loss. Also from an attribution standpoint, I think it's probably not the best source of truth. So I think the advertising landscape has changed, that you need to take more different data sources into the equation. But you mentioned one interesting thing by saying in regards to their outlook for the metaverse, and I think that what's going to change a lot there is the ability for facial expression tracking and for eye movement tracking, which is not provided in the real world. Now, if we look at the metaverse, and NFTs, for example, and an NFT collection like wearing a sweater as an NFT and I'm walking around the metaverse, technically everybody who sees me or who takes a look at me has or gives me an impression. So the impression in the real world can't be tracked because we don't know how many people saw one thing. But in the metaverse, all these impressions are countable. So if I take a look twice at your shirt, I will have two impressions with one reach. So my frequency is two. So all these data points will become very, very interesting, I guess, in the future. So I'm really excited to see what's gonna come up here.
So are you involved in this part of the metaverse at all yet? In other words, are you already building data, data tracking and sort of the technology that's going to track the way people's eyes move and stuff like that? Are you doing this already? So you're branching out, yeah?
No, this is not what we are actually building. This is what we are anticipating. Why Meta has such a strong focus on the metaverse, simply because these eye tracking or facial expressions aren't being able to be used in the real world. And this completely changes in the metaverse. So this just offers such a large data volume to come in that we believe this is going to be very, very crucial, which is why we're trying to dig into a few of these things early, so that we'll be ready when the time is right.
So can I ask you this? So Martin and I did an entire show that we called Metaverse for the Masses, right? And we talked to like literally the head of HTC, a guy named Alvin Wong-Graylan, and also we talked to a guy who runs a platform called UpLive through the Asia Innovations Group, Andy Tian, right? And they talked about the significance of avatars and the difference between what the metaverse looks like today in emerging markets where most of their 600 million users are and where it is in the developed world as well. And I'm curious if in the context of the things that you think are going to happen, are you already reaching out to companies like this to try to get a sense for where they're going so that by the time it actually does happen, you're going to be ready for it as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think it is crucial to start experimenting early because I think this technology is or feels very new to all of us. So I think in the first part it's overwhelming. However, I believe if we're able to get this head start here, it's going to pay off massively, as I do strongly believe in the metaverse.
Yeah, so do I. Look, I want to talk about some of the stuff you're already doing, right? I want to dig a little bit deeper into it. No, because I think it's transferable, right? In other words, if you look at the way, because even in the real world, right, it's hard to track beyond a certain level, like what's happening for any particular SKU, right, for a SKU, right? But once you're able to do that in the digital world, you can do a whole bunch of stuff on the data and data analysis side. And I'd like to dig a little bit deeper into some of those things, right? Maybe not like on a product by product basis, but just to understand why you think this helps and where it actually does help in reality, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Let me take a little step back. So when I rejoined SassyClassy after my stay with Facebook, I questioned what would be my role in the company. We're a family business. My two siblings are my two co-founders. So the communication is very direct. It's very you could say.
Can I ask you this? You
Yeah.
have two other siblings, so there are three of you, yeah, working on this?
Yeah.
Where are you?
Yeah.
Middle, youngest, oldest?
I'm the sandwich. I'm the middle.
You're the middle. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so am I. So my condolences all the way around. But anyway, go ahead.
Absolutely. So we weren't sure what ideally was gonna be my role. Obviously, we knew I'm gonna be responsible in the paid social part, but I felt that our biggest part in our business is actually our product, obviously, and our product decisions have been taken as a family and not as a business. That what I mean is that for example, one would call you in, have two skirts in the hand, and say, which one do you prefer, left or right? And for us, that decision always, or for me, that really disturbed me from the point that I said, first of all, I'm not the target group, so whatever I decide, left or right, it's not applicable. And even if I'd be the target group, there is no statistical significance behind my opinion. That I questioned, how can we make this more data driven? So then we encountered the issue that if I want to take a look at all my parameters that influence profitability of a SKU, I would need actually 7-8 different tabs open to get the information from each SKU. Now that I have 7-8 different tabs open, I would need to apply a mathematical equation towards these different variables in order to create a ranking for how good each SKU is. So, for example, we have an add to cart rate, conversion rate, margin, price, conversion rate as an example, and let's just take conversion rate and margin. So, if the margin of one product is higher than the other one, but the conversion rate of the other product could technically balance it out. So this is exactly what we're trying to calculate here. And this really helped us to become more data driven. However, what was always important for me that we don't just deliver a BI tool because there are many BI tools in the market. For me, it was important that we automate the insights that we generate so that everybody can actually apply them on their business. Because what good is it to be told this and this you should do or is good, but if you don't know how to do it, this information is not valuable to you.
So can I ask this? So what do you mean by automate? I want people to understand this in the sense
Yeah.
that if I'm doing all this analysis on, let's say I have 3 SKUs, just to simplify it for people, right? And one of them has high margin, one of them has high conversion, and I don't know, one of them has, pick another statistic that you want, right? And if you balance out all the mathematics around it, one of them just ends up being more profitable, right? So like the return rate history, let's say, is lower. Let's just say that, yeah? But if you do that, all right, when you talk about automating, are you saying automating the ad process or automating the ordering process, automating, like which part of this automation are you talking about? Because you're right, just having that information, you still may have to have an argument with your sister about which skirt to order. But if you automate the process and eliminate the human decision making, well, now you're onto something, yeah?
It's exactly what our goal in the end is. So, for example, we see stock levels and we see profitability scores. If there's a high profitability score and a low stock level, you should maybe speak to your purchasing department of why there is a low stock level on this SKU. And with automating, I mean that you have the ability to send this information to the marketing platforms or to all digital marketing platforms. If we just take another step back and look at how does digital marketing actually work, you have a website, you have a pixel. The pixel is just a code snippet that tracks activity on the website, and you can connect conversion events to the pixel.
Now, how does that work? Sorry.
Yeah, so you can tag certain buttons or certain URL pages with a conversion event. So, example, the button add to cart. If this one is clicked, please fire the conversion event add to cart so Facebook knows a user has added something to the cart. For example, you could also tag the URL that if there's, for example, the word thank you in the URL, you will know the user is currently on the thank you page. This is past purchase, so we know a purchase has happened. And all the digital marketing platforms, they need 50 conversions in the first week in order to exit the learning phase, meaning that the campaign or the algorithm now knows who's the ideal audience for the campaign. Now, the problem is that we're speaking of 50 conversions, but we actually have no context to that, because if I get 50 conversions making me 500 euro in revenue, but I've paid 600 euro in order to achieve these 50 conversions, what good is that for me?
Nothing.
So,
nothing unless you like losing money, right?
Exactly. But this is, and I mean, the marketing platforms are mega smart. So you could ask why wouldn't they optimize for profit, and why would they go for a volume? So they have to go for volume because that's the only information they can grab themselves through the pixel, because there is post purchase information, for example, the return rate, that the advertisers or the advertising platforms don't know because it's not shared with them. It happens past the purchase. Is happening not on the website, so they don't have any information about return data or post purchase data like returns. Same for margin. Margin is product data which is in the back end of the advertiser, but it's not communicated with the marketing platform. There are very little advertisers that actually share the production costs of an item with Facebook, or with Google or TikTok or Snap. But if you don't share this information, such as production costs or post-purchase data like return rate, how are these platforms supposed to do the best job for you. I always compare it with food, that I say, if you eat healthy or good food, you will be healthy. If you eat a lot of junk food, you won't be healthy. And this is exactly the same principle for me with ProfitDog. So what we did is that we said, by automating this, we found a way how we can share all this extra information plus all the first party data that directly comes to the online shop with the marketing platforms. So, for example, I can now tell Facebook, hey, Facebook, we at SassyClassy, we have 1,500 active SKUs. And I could now tell Facebook, hey, Facebook, please don't show all SKUs. Only show SKUs on a performance-based rule. For example, only show products to new users. The product needs to have at least 1,000 views in the last 2 days. Plus, it has to have a add to cart rate of 30% or above. So now it's ensured that only products that have already traction and traction, positive traction, because it's not only a lot of views, but also the conversion power behind it, are being shown. Once the product moves below 30% add to cart rate, it won't be shown in this certain campaign anymore. Might move into a different campaign set or ad set, so that we automate the way how our inventory is shown.
Can you just run through this with me, like on a step-by-step basis?
Yeah.
Let's say you're like a brand new company with brand new products and you have like 10 products, right? But you're pretty confident that these products are going to work.
Yeah.
I don't know where this confidence comes from, but let's just say you are. And you open up an online shop. Like, what do you do next? How do you install this? What gets installed? What kind of information? What does it connect to? Yeah. And then, like, can you run me through the life cycle of one product and like how it gets measured, then how you make a decision as to whether to keep going with this product or not?
Yeah. So we're currently only integrating with Shopify stores, as we want to have a controlled rollout. We have limited resources, so we couldn't go for all shop systems in the start. The plan is to integrate all shop systems in the future. However, the current status quo is the focus on Shopify. We do have a few custom integrations, as we have a few enterprise clients that have requested an interest, and where we just said this would just make a lot of sense for us as a business to serve these customers now, especially if we're considering to bootstrap for longer. So currently we're focusing on the Shopify market. Now, we said that not many people have or not every business has the technical resources at hand to build a data warehouse. So our solution needs to be a one-click integration process. When you download or when you create a ProfitDog account, you will have the opportunity to connect via the API to Shopify. It's a one-click integration, takes 30 seconds, and you will be integrated with ProfitDog.
Okay, I have to jump in for a second. This one-click integration makes everything easy to set it up. But if there's a lot of data accumulation going on in the background, and if some of these companies you said that are running Shopify stores don't have the chops to sort of build their own stuff, where does all this data get stored? Like, do you, as ProfitDog, have to run the back end as well? Yeah. And because this is going to require a ton of storage, no?
Yes, yes, it does. We're trying to optimize very much on our end from the data warehouse side to exactly anticipate that, because we're not only storing the data in terms of the numbers, we're also storing imagery, which we can use later on for the ads to optimize them. So there is a lot of storage that is required. I do believe that what is crucial for us to give the client the freedom of not needing to build an own backend, that we do everything for them, that we show them how the calculations work, because we give the freedom to every business to tweak our algorithm. Why? Because, for example, for us as a fashion company, we have returns, or returns is a crucial part of our business. Not a pleasurable one, but it is an important one. So we have to factor that in the return rate of an SKU much stronger, because it's not an unusual thing to happen. for a cosmetic company, for example, that has maybe 0.5% returns on inventory, they probably won't need to score the return rate as high as we would need. So we give every business the opportunity to adjust the algorithm or our algorithm to suit its business's needs.
I feel like there's a course you need to offer as well. Like you could probably charge people to sit and go through, because adjusting those, what's the right word? There's a great word for this in math. Anyway, adjusting those sort of concepts there around like how, whether 95%, 45%, how you score these things, right? Could like be the difference between profitability and non-profitability.
Absolutely. Yeah? Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like that's a big deal. So is this one of these businesses that got built for, what's it called, SassyClassy first, and then you were sitting around with your brothers and sisters going, hey, if this thing's working, maybe we should sell it to other people?
It's exactly this how it came up. We built this for SassyClassy. We loved it. And then we created an agency. We have a digital marketing agency, Social Cooks, where we do performance ads for a bunch of really cool companies. And with one company, it's called Snox. It's a super strong direct to consumer brand from Germany. We worked on feed hacking with them to exactly rebuild what we've built with SassyClassy, ProfitDog, to build for them. And it just took us 3 to 4 months, where we said for us as an agency, it's not scalable. This is not a product that we can sell on a regular basis and really have fun with it, because it just takes such a long time to implement. And whilst the implementation, we just said, okay, we loved it, they love it. Maybe we should just build a one-click integration tool that allows us to save all this time and hassle that we've now had for the past 3-4 months. And this is how we decided to actually build our framework as a software.
And did that require a lot of convincing for your older sibling?
Zero.
They were just like, yeah, let's definitely do this.
Let's do it, because for us, when we started to build this data warehouse for us, SassyClassy changed everything. I think there's not a single day where we don't use our tool, whether it's from the purchasing department, whether it's category management. I mean, how are your categories sorted? I guess probably the things with a high better values shouldn't be hidden on page 2, position 42. They should rather be on page 1, position 4, maybe. So who decides what position in the online shop should your SKU have? So it's not just that me from the marketing department or the purchasing department uses our tool, our ProfitDog. It's also the e-com manager who just needs to make decisions on where actually on the website certain products are sold. Same thing, for example, we're looking at categories. We're not just looking at SKUs, we're also looking at categories.
Right.
And for example, for what we will stop is doing shoes. We've made a ton of revenue, a 7-figure revenue with shoes. We're not gonna keep doing shoes anymore. Why? Because it's just revenue that we're turning, but the costs don't fully make sense to turn this revenue. It's not as profitable as it could be with other fashion. So we're dropping shoes now in the future. And I think these kind of strategic decisions, we wouldn't have made them without ProfitDog, because we wouldn't have seen it so clear in comparing SKUs or comparing categories against each other.
How long has ProfitDog been around as a product that other sellers could use on Shopify?
So we started building ProfitDog in January.
Oh wow! Go ahead.
Yeah, it's been a feels like a long ride. It feels like a short long ride and a long ride at the same time.
At the same time,
it's funny. We're currently in a closed beta where we're only taking Social Cooks clients into for the onboarding, because we want to gather as much feedback as possible, and we want to have a controlled ramp up phase as we anticipate when we have larger clients. It would be good to maybe educate them better on the tool and just having a self-serve platform in the beginning. so that we're going to hopefully open ProfitDog. I always said probably around mid-November. Realistically, I now anticipate it's going to be beginning of December. But I
Yeah.
think now it's been such a long ride in the last year that I can wait for another 2 weeks. But we're all very excited for that.
So you will need to make an integration with Tech now, because we're gonna have a lot of people listening to this podcast wondering how the internet says that, and you will need the integration with Tech now.
Absolutely,
So
I'm very open that we'll have a chat around that if there's needs and requests from your listeners. I'm super happy to discuss that and to expedite Dr. Tech on our roadmap.
Right. So look, we call this show e-commerce undercover for a reason. And one of the reasons why is because when most people think about e-commerce, they think about the big platforms. And, Martin and I are pretty clear on the idea that we just don't think these big platforms are the end of innovation for e-commerce. And we want to talk to companies that are building things that people haven't heard of, right? That are kind of under the covers. And this fits into that category perfectly. And to me, I feel like there's a big opportunity here, because as you gather more and more data on what is selling, who's selling it, where it's going, what the return rates are, right? Like, we're not selling shoes anymore because even though we sell a lot of them, we get a lot of returns and the profitability is not there. You're measuring all this stuff, but there's a whole ecosystem around how do we modernize and change the way e-commerce is, and whether that's, Thrasio, who's going out and buying these e-commerce stores, right? They may pay you to actually do an analysis on their shops. And then companies like OnRamp, which we've had on the show, that actually finance the way e-commerce works, right? And by analyzing data. And I'm curious if you look at some of these other companies that are like ancillary to Shopify as well, and think about the ways that you can work with them as well, to then make all of these companies more profitable and make OnRamp understand better who they should, fund, and Thrasio who they should buy, and Ponte and stuff in the Middle East and stuff like that. Are you thinking about that too?
100%. We're actually having a few of these conversations already, just because it makes so much sense to evaluate products on that level. We're also speaking already with a few marketplaces that have contacted us, because the same principle as for an online store, they have large inventories, and they need to evaluate what products are most profitable. Maybe there are certain brands or retailers that they hold in their inventory that probably don't make the threshold and won't be repurchased for a business reason in the next quarter. And there's where ProfitDog will help businesses to evaluate what SKUs will make sense, or even what businesses make sense to buy and to invest in. So I definitely see a big need there.
So here's the other question for me, and I always think about this, right? We're sitting here talking about, and I don't know the ones in Europe, but let's just talk about the big ones in Asia and the big ones in the United States, right? So Amazon is like this giant.
Yeah.
In Asia, we have Shopee, we have Lazada, we have all these big companies, right? But if you're building this modern platform and you're going to be working with Shopify sellers to do this, I always wonder, isn't there room for somebody like you that's super data driven, that has their own store, right? Their own store, like SassyClassy, so you can do testing on your own stuff. Isn't there a way for you to just build a marketplace with only the best stores and the best sellers? You can still let them do it on Shopify, but you're the discovery platform for them as well? Or am I just completely misguided?
No, it's a great idea. We never thought of it from this angle, actually. We looked from a different angle, that we said in 2-3 years time, if we have a great adaptation, we could provide benchmarking reports. For example, that I'm gonna tick the e-commerce industry, I'm gonna tick apparel or shoes, and I'm gonna say, okay, red sneakers versus blue sneakers.
Yep.
So I see, okay, my add to cart rate on blue sneakers in Germany is on average at 13%. My add to cart rate for red sneakers is, I don't know, 20%. So you will already have a feeling for what color maybe to tap in. That's more the direction that we've thought of. We've not yet considered to actually maybe build a marketplace from the top 5% of the most profitable SKUs, because we would know that the most profitable SKUs we can actually advertise them ourselves in a marketplace business. So it's actually an awesome idea. I appreciate
Thank you.
the input. It's brilliant.
You're welcome. Sorry, Martin, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Michael, but also that just to add up on your idea, like the sellers might not want you to compete with them on the local market. So if you have German sellers or French sellers and you put it on the marketplace, they might not like it. But something that you can do is help them expand to other countries where they are not in, right? Like for example, someone who is selling in Germany, and you build infrastructure to sell in Italy, where the language is different, where the payment options are different, where shipping is different as well, then it can be a very amazing way for sellers to test the market and to have a very easy go-to-market strategy, right? And they can start on the marketplace and then decide if they want to make a new store with Dr. Tech, for example, or keep selling with you because you manage everything for them. So it would be marketplace plus a kind of Amazon FBA kind of infrastructure where you can handle the shipping as well, but you minimize your risk a lot because you already know that this is the most profitable SKUs in Germany, right? Yeah. So I think there's definitely something here that can be super interesting.
I think it's a brilliant thought as well. The only concern that I would have is, and I've maybe not enough data and experience in being for sure, so it's just a concern that I would need to test and revalidate. I'm not sure if my top selling products in Germany will also be my top selling products in Spain, France, Italy. So that is the only
So this is where you have sellers from all over Europe on your platform, and you do the benchmarking idea. Yeah. This is where where you compare, and you know that red sells better in Italy than in Germany.
Of course.
So let's give a little bit more point to the red products. We put a little higher ratio on the red product from Germany, and now my product number 5 become number 1 because it's red, right? So maybe there's something like this to be done. I don't know.
I mean, the one thing you never see is a grandpa in Germany wearing red pants, but you definitely see a grandpa in Italy wearing red pants. So I definitely agree with this thesis. I got another question. I'm going to get killed online for this, by the way. Email Martin, don't email me. But here's the other question, right? If you do end up building a marketplace, which I think is a great idea, right? Just like a curated marketplace, it's like a high-end mall, right? Where just the best products are. Do you think, and again, I don't know if you're a football fan, but do you think that there's a way to implement like an EPL or a Bundesliga style thing where like only the best companies are there, and if they start being not the best companies, they get like downgraded to like the lower leagues, you know what I mean? And then new companies come in and replace them as well, because you have all this data, yeah?
In a way,
am I giving you too much stuff to think about today?
No. I think it's brilliant. It's incredible because you could technically also do like this. That sort of say the one who wins the Bundesliga this year or the league this year gets to pay the lowest transactional costs to us.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm not sure from a legal perspective how this is possible, but this we would need to look into. But I think it's a brilliant idea to make it a little bit competitive as well.
Competition and gamify it, yeah?
Brilliant. I love it. I should come more often to your podcast.
That's a consulting call, actually. we are discussing ideas.
But I do think about this type of stuff a lot, right? Because I do think as you gather data, your ability to disintermediate some of the bigger platforms is there, and you can be much more, like I said, curated in the way you show some of these things. You get to test it on your own. And here's the other thing, like, as you gather data and as you see seasonal changes in the products that are and aren't selling, you know, like, is there a way for you to take some of this data on an anonymized basis and not remind people to order for like Christmas or for whatever the big upcoming holiday is, right, where their sales tend to spike, but also let them know, like, just products that are selling anyway that maybe fit into some of their categories? Like, can you use this as a predictive mechanism as well and say, we have high confidence that this type of product is going to sell, so you should give it better exposure on your website? Are you planning on doing that as well?
Yes. So we want to give the insights to the business, but we don't want to recommend on a user level, or client level, so for a purchaser level for the company. Why? Because once we go into personal data, we will be confronted with a lot of GDPR issues.
Yeah, not on a personal level. I just mean like, like people go sledding, let's just say. I'm just making
Mhm.
stuff up, right? When it snows, and if you live in a place where it's hilly, your customers, based on historical data, are going to want to buy sleds,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So definitely make sure you're stocked up on sleds. They want to buy the ones that go fast. Don't buy the ones that go slow. So make sure the rails with, like, I'm just making stuff up, right? But that's what I mean by predictive, not on a personal basis, because you run into all this personal information stuff, the GDPR stuff, all the data stuff you have to be careful about, which is why I said anonymized at the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you can gather all this data from your sellers and just go, hey, somebody should be selling X from a predictive standpoint, I thought that might be interesting.
Yeah, that's what we're already trying to build out in our Insights tab. And we're also trying to give recommendations here, not only for what you should offer, but also from your stock levels. I mentioned earlier that we will give exactly their predictive analysis and insights to our ProfitDog users around their inventory, but not around the industrial thing. So we wouldn't recommend for a business what to do next, but we would make recommendations within their current inventory.
Got it. Got it. And how about pricing? Will you capture what the pricing is too and then make recommendations or even just like suggestions about, if you lowered this price by 4%, your returns would go down and then it would make the profitability X? Like, you doing some of that math in the background as well?
Yeah, not yet. It is a future. It's a future thought of ours. There are a few companies already doing that, so that which is why we didn't want to tap into that from the beginning now. Um, so we rather wanted to rather go into a blue ocean, into a red ocean. Um, so which is why we focused on the fee tagging and profitability scoring.
Okay, so this brings up another gigantic question for me. Do you, because I think about this a lot, right? And if you think about all the conversations that we've had across the platform, I always try to think about, are you building a product company or are you building a platform company or some kind of hybrid, right? In other words, if there's a one-click connectivity to install ProfitDog, then it's got to be kind of API based, right? Where
Hmm.
people are connecting to your APIs, they're feeding you all this data, and then they're understanding through your backend analysis what's happening.
Yeah.
You can't build social, and Shopify has done a great job of this, right? So that's why you're allowed to be on the Shopify platform, because they say we can't build everything. But if you think about what you're building, are you building a platform then that other people that may want to build very specific analysis tools can then connect as well and then offer that as part of the ProfitDog suite of products if you can't build everything on your own? Does that make sense?
100%. It is something that we're considering for later. Currently, I think we didn't touch base on that for a resource. It's a resource question. But I
Yeah.
would love the idea in sort of say to create an environment like an app store that we give ProfitDog
Yeah.
as a basic tool.
Yep.
And if for example, industry experts from the fashion, beauty, whatever industry, they can
Finance.
finance, they can build their tools on top of ProfitDog. You can license them. I would love that. It's something that we've discussed already internally. However, we just need to prioritize in the beginning, which is why we've moved it for a later stage. But it's definitely super interesting to us.
Got it. Do you feel like the business that you're running, like the original business, SassyClassy, is kind of getting, what's the right word, that you're spending more time running ProfitDog than you are on running SassyClassy, or are those two things competing with each other because all the stuff you learn from ProfitDog helps the building of SassyClassy as well? You know what I mean?
I think it's also a lot of vice versa that the things that we do with SassyClassy helped us build ProfitDog. Um, so especially this year in e-commerce has been a tricky year if we look into the market. We hear a lot of complaints around growth rates declining. Um, Us, for our part, we're going to grow from 28 million to around 40 million this year in 2022, so that we had a quite the large um, further increase. Now, this is also a lot to bring back to our team that we have brilliant minds sitting with us. we're around for 9 years almost with SassyClassy, so that we have certain structures that have allowed me as well to, in certain moments, take a little step back, rely on the people around me that we're working, that these things are being done, and I'm only getting a certain report back of how the status quo is, but not being operationally 100% into certain tasks with SassyClassy that allows to free up time for ProfitDog.
Got it. And you said before you were bootstrapping this, and I want to get this right. Did you say SassyClassy was going from 28 million euros of sales to 40?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's a
We're we're
gigantic
aim
business in and of
we're
itself. Yeah.
we're aiming for 40. We didn't hit the 40 yet, but we're aiming after Black Friday. We should have hit it. So we're aiming for 40 in 2022.
You can always blame that on your brother or your sister. That's fine.
Exactly,
I'm
exactly.
kidding. I'm kidding. But that's a big business in and of itself, then, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's crazy if you're just taking a moment to reflect to where we come from. We started in my children's bedroom. We moved the bed to the side, the desk to the side, the cover to the side, and just bought these brown boxes, cut them out like you could say like a cat toilet. I don't know if you say that,
I
so that
understand.
you
Yeah,
can
yeah, yeah.
reach in,
A
so you
litter
can reach
box. Yeah.
in, like a litter box, so you can
Yeah.
reach in. Um, and that was our first fulfillment center, you can say.
I love it.
And now you're coming in the morning into the office. We're on 3,500 square meters. Logistics and office space now with around 80 people. And it's crazy if you think back to the time where you've packed the 3-4 packages a night and felt like you're going somewhere. Um,
We're
yeah,
huge.
exactly, and all of a sudden you have 10 orders and you're like, wow, this is crazy. And but I would have never imagined it moving into these spheres, to be honest. And we're very, very thankful and grateful, but we also respect how quick it can go up, as quick it can go down. So
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is exactly why we're trying to work very, very hard to ensure our competitive edge and to strengthen our position in the market.
So you mentioned this word bootstrapping before. I
Yeah,
mean, do you feel like it's necessary to go out and raise money to actually build this business? I mean, I feel like it's not at all, to be fair, but I don't see the books, right? So I don't
yeah,
know what it actually costs to build ProfitDog either.
yeah. It's been an investment. Let's be honest, but um, I think for now it's the smartest way, and I think that we have all the opportunities to bootstrap ProfitDog. However, we're also already in certain conversations with a few interesting companies, people around creating a wider team for ProfitDog. Personally, I feel that the more added value we can bring into the company, the better. And with the added value, I'm not just talking about money to grow. I'm especially speaking about smart money, people who know the industry, who know the business, who might be able to bring you further enterprise customers that allow you to quickly grow and maybe even get brand word of mouth recommendations through large clients. I mean, if you have a big testimonial, it would be much easier um, to get the second big one if you have the first big one, so to say.
So who's
Um,
your who's your aspirational, like if you could just go out tomorrow and just say, okay, that company is my business partner, is my client, who would it be? Like what kind of person would it not person, what kind of company would it be like?
so I think we would love to work with the large retailers, like somebody like Adidas, Nike, Puma. I think these companies are predestined for a tool like ProfitDog. They have immensely large inventories. Um, so they need to evaluate profitability for them. They need to evaluate positioning of the SKU within the categories, and they need to monitor their ad process of they're using a lot of dynamic product ads, these large companies, which just make sense, but they wouldn't be able to tell you how much money today has been spent on this sweater because this information is not provided to you. So, um, if you would ask me who's like an ideal client, obviously, me coming from the fashion side, I would directly think of a fashion business, but it's the same for any e-commerce business that is selling physical goods. That technically, I would love to onboard at ProfitDog and support by making it more profitable.
Yeah, I mean, I just think the company that comes to my mind is JCPenney, and the only reason why is because we had a conversation with another company that does some sort of tech stuff for JCPenney, and even in my mind, like a JCPenney to me had always seemed like this kind of old-fashioned, not forward-looking company. But one of the things I learned from having another conversation like this was that team really is interested in employing new technology and new data analysis tools to try to understand like how to make their business way more profitable. And that just seems super interesting to me. Have you ventured outside Europe yet or not yet?
No, not yet. We have an interesting call coming up, which is with a potential client outside Europe, but we didn't have it yet, so not yet. But we're feeling first interest coming in, but let's see.
Yeah, because look, one of the things I sat in a conference. This is like 5 or 6 years ago now, right? With the head of product at, let's just say, one of the big marketplaces here, and I said to them, you know, choice is not a problem. It's discoverability that seems to be a big problem. How do I even know as a consumer what I should buy? And if I search for something, I find the results are pretty terrible. Just my opinion. And the response I got was, "Oh, we don't have any problems with discoverability. We have 2 million products on the platform." And I thought, yeah, exactly. That's the problem, right?
Paradox of choice.
Yeah, it's a paradox of choice completely, though, right? Because I have too many choices, and what I do is I just walk away, right? Like I don't want to figure out if I want to date 1 out of 55 people. I want to date 1 out of maybe 7 people, right? Yeah. It's the same thing with products, I think. So do you look to Asia as well, where it's super greenfields, and think maybe if I get a client there first, then I could back into some of the clients in Europe, if you know what I mean?
100%. We're actually also in conversations for a few exhibitions in the US currently, as we're just looking for other regions. But for me, Asia would be super, super interesting, as I see there's such a large market. And huge. I just feel it's applicable to any e-commerce business. So for all your listeners geographically located in Asia or wherever you are in the world, feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn. I'd love to have a conversation around it.
I just think it would be a great differentiator for a company like Shopee or for Tokopedia or any of the big sales platforms that are in Vietnam or Malaysia. Japan's harder, right? Because Japan, I lived there for 20 years. I can say whatever I want. But in some of the other economies here, they're much more greenfields. It feels like it's a massive opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Got it. Martin, what else you got?
No, I'm good. I think that's very super interesting. Like, so
super interesting.
Yeah, let's see. Like, I think the next step for us would be to build the integration with Dr. Ted, who can definitely help as well. But
the two of you, I'm leaving.
Bye, Michael. Have a good day. Thank you for joining. No, but like, because then we can really like have a real case study from like somebody that we know, that we're close to, and see like what's going to be the impact on sales, and like you see that already on your own business. But I'm very, very curious to see that on the business that we have on Dr. Ted and see like how it's going to grow, how it's going to help, and yeah, I'm very curious about that.
Yeah, could be super
I would say cool. let's aim for around January to start integrating. I mean, I'm open. I think you have a large listener base. Let's go for it.
Super. Okay, let's do this. Let's thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you, Denys.
Denys Lichtenstein. I hope I got the name right. Co-founder with his brothers and sisters, and who knows what other family members are involved of ProfitDog and SassyClassy. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Classy Sassy.
SassyClassy.
SassyClassy. Thank you so much for doing this, Denys.
Thank you very much, guys.